The RTM meeting to order. It is Wednesday, April 12th at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'll read your name and you'll say you're here if you're here. Representative Adams.
Here.
Amboise. Here. Bailey. Burrell.
Here.
Brennan.
Present.
Wright.
Here.
Casper.
Here.
Surf. Chase.
Here.
Kopp.
Here.
Crockett Hubbard. Dean Shinbrot.
Here.
Eben. Frickman. Fritchie. Gardner.
Here.
Gothier. Gibbs. No. Gustafson.
Here.
Hainline. Hanscom.
Here.
Ivy.
Here.
Caden.
Here.
Massett.
Here.
McElroy. Oh boy, I got that wrong. McElroy. Okay. So Merritt.
Here.
Norman.
Here.
Aubry.
Here.
Perry. K. Powers.
Here.
S. Powers.
Here.
Pacino. She's supposed to be in here. Scott. Cimarero.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
B.C. Williams. Watson.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Wells. Whitney. And Rusk.
Here.
I have 28.
And
present.
Representative Bailey came on.
Okay, that's 29.
I did hear from Representative Perry and Representative Eben that they may be late.
And Representative Lynn Hubbard will not be here.
And Representative Lynn Crockett Hubbard will not be in attendance. Okay, if we can all stand, please, for a moment of silence. Representative Gustafson, would you please lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we are on approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any corrections for the minutes from March 8th?
I actually read them and I didn't see anything.
Madam Moderator, the sound is very poor, for me anyway.
Okay, one moment, we'll try to work on that. Can you hear better when I speak like that?
No.
No. Can anybody else on Zoom let me know if they're having issues hearing?
I can hear you.
Okay. Representative Cimarero, do you need to turn up your side a little bit?
Shows good and red.
Representative Bailey, can you hear us?
It's like garbled.
It's garbled.
I can't hear.
Okay, we're working on it.
One person here, so the minutes are approved.
Bailey here. I don't know if you got me.
We got you, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no corrections to the minutes are approved, but we're trying to hold off a little bit to see if we can get everybody to be able to hear. I'm just going to keep talking to see if you guys can hear me better. If I can get a thumbs up if you can hear me any better. Representative Ivy, is that a yes? Representative Hainline just came in.
Just real quick, remind everybody on Zoom, if you're not talking, to mute your Zoom, and that'll prevent feedback, which will make it easier for all of us to hear.
It's Ivy. Thank you, Ivy.
So, Representative Cimarero, do you have your Are you muted? No.
I'll put it on mute.
Okay, and then just give me a thumbs up if it makes it any better. Does that make it any better? Can you hear me any better now? No. Okay.
This will be somebody else.
I can't hear you,
Hey there.
Madam Moderator. I hear some of the representatives when they speak.
Okay, but you can't hear my microphone.
All right.
Sean?
I'll let Sean do that for you. Okay, great.
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
he might try coming in through his phone.
Do you want to call in through your phone? Representative Cimarero, do you want to call in through your phone? Can't hear me. Can somebody out there say it and see if he can hear you?
Can you hear?
Get on a microphone.
Can you hear this?
Representative Kopp just spoke. Could you hear her?
Can you hear me speaking? You're on mute.
Okay. Representative Evans and Representative Wells have joined the meeting. Representative Powers, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
couldn't at first because it sounded a little garbled, but it was because my volume was way down on my computer.
Okay.
And I turned it up and it got much better.
Is anyone else having problems at home hearing?
Wells and Evans.
Representative Evans? Representative Eben, are you able to hear us?
I just want to note I'm here and I can barely hear you.
Can barely hear. Okay. We're working on it. I can't see who else has their hand up. Representative Bailey, I think? Representative Bailey, do you have your hand up?
And somebody else is here. I can't.
Hainline.
Yes,
Can you
the
move
audio
that?
is extremely muffled as we receive it from Senior Center.
Okay, Sean is working on it. We're trying our best right now. Sean, do you want to just put us to recess? You can't
So
hear?
would you announce that we have 30?
Can you ask him if his hearing
with-
aids are on?
Okay, where's them?
I have to put mine on.
So we now are at 32 with the addition of Representatives Eben, Wells, and Hainline.
Okay, while we're waiting for this to work out, I just want to welcome our two new representatives.
That box out of the way.
We have Representative Sarah Caden from District 7. We have Representative J.C. Amboise from District 2. I want to thank them both for stepping up. This is a fun time to join us. So thank you. I also want to say thank you to Representative Jacome and Representative Ray, who have stepped aside. Representative Jacome is now on the town council. Representative Ray needed to resign. So thank you so much for being here.
Can you
Welcome.
move Wells into a panelist? Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Can you guys hear us better now? Any better?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm getting a yes. All right, then we are moving on to public petition. This is the portion of the RTM agenda where the RTM welcomes comments from the public. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or at the direction or as directed, and if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be limited to matters pertinent to the town of Groton.
Sometimes it takes.
The moderator or members through the moderator may ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentation. Response may be given by the moderator and/or the town manager. Individuals should please state their name and address for the record. First,
I think we missed the minutes.
no, we did the minutes.
Did we vote?
There's no voting.
There's no vote. I asked if there were any corrections.
Great.
We're good?
We're perfect.
Okay.
Hi.
All right, first up is Mr. Tom Olson, please.
Panelist and-
Point of information,
Yes, what's your point?
I've had my hand up and I
Oh, I'm sorry.
Able to speak at that point because I wasn't a panelist.
Okay, what is your concern with the minutes?
I emailed these to the town clerk, but on page, sorry. Page 7 of the minutes, it says that I stated that I was that Wheels to Work was one of the items that was reviewed, and then it had a statement, and I would like to delete that because I didn't say that.
Can you tell me what paragraph? I'm sorry.
My comments, Representative Bailey spoke, and Moderator Rusk allowed Massett's point of order, but that was, again, Representative Bailey spoke after me in reference to the charter.
Can
So
you,
that's missing.
page 7?
Page 7 of the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any other corrections? Representative Eben, any other corrections?
No, as long as that can be made, I will be happy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Then the minutes will stand as corrected. Okay. We are moving on to public petition. Mr. Olson.
Tom Olson, 188 Crosswinds Drive, Noank. I'm a member of the Town of Groton Conservation Commission. Would like to address the zero funding of the open space acquisition funding that was done in CIP 8 Bravo for the fiscal year ending 2024 by the Town Council earlier this week. The open space acquisition funding started by a Town Council resolution in 2002. That funding was then basically only funded by small subdivision payments in lieu of open space requirement of 10% of every subdivision being donated to the town. And then in lieu of that, if you had like a small parcel, or you could make a capital donation to the town, and that would go into that fund. In 2016, the POCD recommendation 2-17 was to fund open space annually in a capital improvement program. That recommendation was implemented starting with the fiscal year 21 budget, which established CIP 8 Bravo. But with $0 in that first initial year, but with $25,000 for every following year. The FY22 budget requested $25,000, but was reduced in the final approved budget to $10,000. The fiscal year 23 budget requested the $25,000 again, but it was reduced to $0 in this current budget. Also, during this past, in December of this year, the Open Space Acquisition Fund was fully depleted in support of the Wolfbrook acquisition expenses. These are going for surveys and the things like that. Then in this current budget that's being reviewed now requested $25,000, but again, the Town Council reduced that to $0 earlier this week. The current balance of the Open Space Acquisition Fund is at $27,000 from the recent small subdivision payment of a single subdivision, and that's all that's in that fund at this time. And just for putting it in perspective, each of the surveys that were done on Wolfbrook were around 60, two of them were required, and they were about $60,000 each. And that's the principal focus of what the acquisition fund is, not to buy the property, but it's to be able to put you the town in a position to get a request. The Open Space Acquisition Fund from the state of Connecticut requires surveys and some other documentation and estimates to appraisals, excuse me, to basically apply for the grant. And that's, in this case, which was done for Wolfbrook, that we used funds from this fund to be able to get that grant. That grant was over $400,000. And so if you don't have the money in place, you can't even start that process. The Conservation Commission feels that the essentially total lack of support recommendations to the POCD, providing only 10% since inception to this fund, is sending the wrong message to the town that it's just fine to disregard the approved guidance document, in particular the POCD, the Plan of Conservation and and development. The town manager and planning department director failed to bring this point of the POC to compliance up during this past week's council budget discussions on the CIP 8 Bravo. When they were asked what would be impact of not funding the CIP, they were silent on it and said there's no issues, which the Conservation Commission completely disagrees with. There is an impact in the long run that was not presented to the town council. We kind of feel that the leadership failed, and we were looking now for us to be able to bring this to you to correct this travesty. The Conservation Commission strongly recommends that the RTM override the town council action and fully fund CIP 8 Bravo to the full amount that recommended by the town manager, $25,000 in your upcoming budget review process. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative De La Cruz. Sorry.
Thank you. No longer
Mr. De La Cruz. Former, sorry.
No problem.
Old habits die hard.
Joseph De La Cruz, 95 Coy Road, right in Groton, Connecticut. Firstly, thank you guys for everything you do here at the RTM. I remember sitting right in that very seat. Last week or last month, the town council approved the opiate funds that were basically awarded from a lawsuit to Community Speaks Out. What they did was take the first 2 years. It's an 18-year settlement. And what I want to explain tonight is, although there are very numerous groups in the area, Groton is really represented by us, Community Speaks Out. And when you look at us, there was a few questions that the council had received after they granted us the funding. One being that we may be overfunded, and that there was a $6.1 million grant that we somehow had. That is not something that's actually happened. We did send all the 990s, so hopefully you folks got to look at that. I was hoping you got a chance to watch the meeting, the council meeting, but we also did the finance committee meeting last Monday, and it was 5 in favor with 0 abstentions. And again, we're not claiming to be the only group that does work in helping folks in addiction.
Hold on. Can you not hear?
None of this is audible, unfortunately. I had my hand since the last speaker. Absolutely.
Same thing with me.
Okay, do you want to start over
Do
and
they want
speak?
the last speaker to talk?
I can't hear either.
So the last speaker spoke in favor of increasing funding for open space back to $25,000, which was cut by the town council. Can you hear my microphone better?
Yes, I can hear your voice, but not theirs. It's not connected correctly.
How about now? Does that sound better? Can you hear me now?
No, it's breaking up horribly.
It is that.
Have him speak. Okay. Do you want to start over?
I guess, yeah, I'll start over if they didn't hear it. Can you hear me now? I feel like I'm making a commercial.
So the original speaker was Mr. Olson. He provided a written copy, which will be sent out to everybody, and that way you can see what his points were. And we'll start this one over, because you're still up there.
Should I sing Purple Rain or something?
That'd be fantastic.
Let's do it. You guys, we'll have a fun night tonight. Can you hear me now?
Representative Dean Shinbrot, did you have another concern? You have your hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to lower my hand.
Okay.
So I'll start again and then
Go for it.
we'll find out.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so
Go
I'm
for it.
good. All right, once again, well, I will start from the beginning, going right back to the town council meeting. We had a long discussion. We had about 60 folks show up. And what I forgot to mention during that council meeting was about 50 of them live right here in Groton. Many of them in sober homes, many of them using the services that Community Speaks Out provides. We started this group 8 years ago and basically rented an office space, I think it was 5 years ago, right on Thames Street, and we're kind of outgrowing the place. It wasn't something that was on our radar to go look for a bigger place or maybe even purchase something. But with this money coming in, we're possibly looking at doing something like that. We actually serve Groton, London, all the way out into, we've helped people in Hartford. We've brought veterans back from California. We don't try to do that, but if there's a local connection, we will, and that's what we've been able to, that's kind of been our sweet spot. And I want to reiterate that we really work with other organizations. I know some of the organizations that were mentioned that possibly could receive other funds would be like a GASP, which we work with, and they're great. Carolyn was actually on our board for a short time. We work with Safe Futures, and they are all great groups. But if you got a chance to read our 990s, the one takeaway I hope you do understand is when you see the 8 people listed as employees, we're board members. And right across to the right from that, it's all zeros. When we get money as a 100% volunteer organizational group, we multiply that money. We just were at the Groton Bowling Center this weekend. We rent one half of the bowling alley. It was our third event at the bowling alley for $1,600. We've actually partnered with another group called the Phoenix. But we provided 80 slots for people in recovery to just come out and bowl. And the feedback we're getting really, with recovery and addiction, is more about the fellowship and knowing that the community's behind you. When we first got involved with this, I found out the hard way. I thought we had no problem in Groton. I coached basketball, baseball, and wrestling. I was on the town council. I was active. Our town was okay until my son brought it to our door. And right down the street on Hazelnut Hill, there's a church that me and my wife were trying to figure out the disease of addiction, and we walked into the wrong meeting. It was a meeting with a bunch of folks that were trying to get help, and I saw 3 of my former players that were there needing help. And I told them that night that the Calvary's coming. That was 8 years ago. And although we have raised probably $300,000 in our time, we've spent almost all of it. It goes to helping people afford sober living, get jobs. That money is going directly into the people. We're not paying salaries. And the Calvary hasn't come. And I guess when I was thinking Calvary as a council member and one day before as an RTM member, that's the Calvary I was thinking of. Tonight you guys have a chance to be part of the Calvary. Vote this money in. Again, if it was $1 million we were talking about, I would 100% anyone's concerns here, but it's $112,000. We spent $50,000 in sober living last year. That's money that we raised from businesses, and we really put the onus on businesses. This money is a lawsuit, and it's directly made to impact their effect on people, what they did. And this is really, so it's not budgetary money, it's not something you have to worry about, can go somewhere else. It's gonna all go towards the disease of addiction and helping us. So I thank you, and I thank you guys for being here, and I thank you for listening.
All right, thank you. Are there any clarifying questions? This is not the time for Mr. Olson or for Mr. De La Cruz. Clarifying questions means you don't understand something that was asked. Is it a clarifying question? Okay, what is your clarifying question?
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. Mr. De La Cruz stated that they service 50 or 60 people locally in the area. I wanted to know how many in an annual year that they actually assist and how they track the people that they assist on an annual year regarding opioid funding, education, recovery, and prevention.
Okay, I think we're going to wait until we get into the discussion, and then maybe we'll allow him to come back up.
Because that's not a clarifying question,
Correct.
that's a real question.
Okay, all right. Seeing no other questions, we're going to move on to receipt of communication. Anyone? Okay. Representative Watson.
I have a communication. It's just that I got a call from somebody in my district. Is it on?
Should be.
I speak so frequently, I don't have.
Right on your chest. Put it like this on your chest.
Thanks for saving me. Still not working, is it? Is it?
It's working.
Oh, okay. I did get a call from a constituent District 2, and I answered her question about the rental fees for golf carts in the proposed schedule for Shanticosset Golf Course. So
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. I did get an email regarding decorum at town council meetings. I'm going to remind everyone that we are not all ex officio members of the town council. The moderator is the only position that is an ex officio member. You are welcome to speak during citizens petitions at the town council, but you do not have the right to speak during the council meeting. So that seemed to be a concern. Town manager is, Representative Eben.
We still can't hear. It's really breaking up. It's really tough to hear anything.
Sorry, Sean's working on it. I will try to speak as clearly as I can, and we'll move forward a little bit. The town manager is not here tonight. He is at the town council meeting, I'm assuming. Committee of the whole budget meeting.
I'm assuming that we'll get a report emailed, and then I'll include it in the minutes.
So, we are moving on to committee reports. And the only committee we have tonight reporting is the Finance Committee. I'm going to have you say just a couple things, and then we're going to see if they can hear you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Oh, I can't even hear you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Nothing? Nothing? Nothing.
It's closer, but speak louder.
Can you hear this?
Yes.
Okay, online, can you hear it?
Can you hear this?
No, nothing.
Poor Sean.
She can hear me, I think.
It's all breaking up. We can hear sound. It just isn't necessarily attached words.
What about everybody else? Representative Powers, can you hear us online, or is it breaking up at your house also? I'm trying to figure out if it's us.
I called in on a phone and it's just as bad.
Okay.
That's the other side. That's the far corner.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to see if it was.
He's out there using the last.
I was just trying to see if it was a home internet issue or if it was here, but it seems to be here.
Madam Moderator, I think when Representative Powers had that wireless mic, it sounded crystal clear. But
Oh.
that was for just a split second, so maybe we
Okay,
need to try
so
that.
that microphone.
Well, according to them, they heard better with that one.
Representative Gardner, did you have a question? We really don't have anything on the floor right now, so if it's on an IT issue.
It is on the IT
Okay.
issue. Could we get this tested before the meeting starts from now on? Because
It
this
was
isn't the first
tested.
time.
Absolutely. I understand your frustration.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Can you hear me now? Not really? A little better?
For all the times your wife doesn't want to hear you.
I know.
Right now,
When
she
I-
actually does.
So shall we wait?
I'm going to give Sean a couple more minutes to see if he can figure out what's going on. Yeah, you can. You can close caption. Mhm. We used to do it. Sean, can we close caption?
Can they close caption?
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to call a 5-minute recess, and we will be back at 8 or 7:30 or 7:40. Let's say 7:40. Okay, we're going to resume the meeting, and we are going back to Finance Committee with Representative Powers, Chair Powers. Sorry, didn't mean to catch you off guard.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Moderator. We had a Monday meeting, April 3rd, 2023. Call to order was at 7:01. The roll call, Representative Chase, Fritchie, Norman, Gardner, Scott, Powers were present. Representative Massett was excused. Moderator Risk was there. Town Manager Burt, former State Representative Joe Dela Cruz was also present. The new business on the agenda was the 2021 799-8, the National Opioid Settlement Acceptance and Allocation Years 2 and 3. We had discussion. Representative Chase read the resolution into the record, and it was so moved by Representative Norman. Town Manager Burt gave an explanation as to how these settlement awards are distributed as they are released from the companies involved in the crisis settlement. The questions aroused about future funding and granting funds which have not been allocated. These settlement dollars come in at various times for consecutive years with front-loading dollar amounts. There was discussion about written financial plans for Community Speaks Out, which former Representative Dela Cruz explained. The filing is online, which we have seen, and the scope of the funding needs in the focus was on the funds needed for this organization to grow. They will have the ability now in the future to expand and move forward with helping our communities and families. The committee asked about the types of programs that are available. The business plan for expanding programs were discussed. Community Speaks Out will each year come before our local government to receive the needed fundings and more settlements awards become available.
One second. Representative Whitney, would you mind muting yourself, please?
The discussion on grant funding with state and federal dollars, which they do not receive. They're basically a nonprofit with most of their money coming from just donations and businesses to help our community. Vote was taken, 5 were in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention. Representative Gardner abstained. Motion was made by Representative Scott, seconded by Chase, and we adjourned at 7:30.
Thank you. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are accepted. Can I get a volunteer to read the resolution into the record, please? Representative Chase.
A resolution to authorize the Year 2 and Year 3 opioid settlement payments, whereas the proliferation of improper use of opioids has created a nationwide epidemic, and whereas the Town Council has joined into settlement agreements with manufacturers and distributors of opioids, and whereas the National Opioid Settlement Funds are intended to be used in the fight against opioid and other addictions, and whereas Community Speaks Out is a volunteer nonprofit organization focusing on improving the community by providing education, prevention, and resources to individuals and their families to access treatment and recovery, and whereas the town of Groton previously awarded their settlement funds of $22,263.86 received in Year 1 to Community Speaks Out, and whereas the Town Council desires to award opioid settlement funds for the second year of $23,398.23, along with the $89,508.93 from the Janssen Manufacturer Year 1 payment and the third year payments to Community Speaks Out. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council authorizes the fiscal years 2023 and 2024 settlement funds to be awarded to Community Speaks Out, and be it further resolved that the request be forwarded to the representative town meeting for consideration.
All right. So the one that I have says, resolved that the town council and the representative town meeting RTM authorizes the fiscal year 2023 and 2024 opioid settlement funds to be awarded to Community Speaks Out. That was the last line.
Second.
I'm sorry, I'm not making the motion. The motion was made by Representative Powers. Correct?
Correct.
Seconded by Representative Amboise. All right, any discussion? Representative Weaver.
Fellow RTM members, I would like to raise this to your attention. I had sent out a considerable amount of information regarding the opioid settlement fund distribution. These funds were actually $26 billion awarded throughout the United States and to different municipalities, and the municipalities had to vet to get these funds, and they are awarded for a period of 18 years at the appropriated fund that we were given. And apparently we were given $120,000 for 18 years, which is $2.160 million over the course of the 18-year period, which can deviate depending on the disbursement amounts. My cautionary statement to the RTM when approving the town council meeting, I don't think these funds should be looked at any differently than the ARPA funds. The ARPA funds were awarded $8.6 million, and they had a formal vetting process by all the people who could benefit from receiving these programs. I'm not sure if you're aware, but our governor has actually created an act to distribute these funds, and they're supposed to be utilized for harm reduction, infrastructure, prevention, recovery, substance use, disorder treatment, mental health. It says that 70% of these funds are supposed to be utilized for that source, 15% is for the administration, and the town can use, or the municipality can use 15% for whatever it's liking. I just happen to be an advocate for recovery because in my youth, we didn't have services for these things, and I had actually vetted the town, the RTM at the beginning because we had a hard, quick, fast date to get these funds because if municipalities didn't register for them, we couldn't benefit by them. My concern with vetting these funds to one organization is that you are kind of being short-sighted because the demographic that's being helped is very narrow. While Community Speaks Out does predominantly do opioid prevention, the biggest concern was to make sure that these funds stayed in our municipality. And we just heard Mr. De La Cruz say that they do things for New London as well as Hartford, as far as Hartford. But their main view isn't necessarily opioid funding. They also do concerns for domestic violence, grief counseling, and as well as gun violence prevention. So they're not dedicated predominantly to opioid funding. Whereas I did the research and I reached out, and our current GASP right now, although we did receive an email saying that they're currently funded, they currently have 2 programs right now for tobacco and alcohol prevention. And with the grants that they receive from CREC and DEMAS, they have to utilize those funds. So they can't vet for funds that they don't have an opportunity to vet for. So I'm sure if GASP had the opportunity to vet for funds on an annual basis, that they could create an opioid program to teach our youth in our high school. And the other thing is that GASP has been in our area since 1999, and they are not fully state funded. GASP runs on a grant basis, and their service age group is 12 to 20. I reached out to other organizations in the area, so for instance, maybe you don't know, but Safe Futures received $10,000 of the ARPA funds. SCAD received a portion of the ARPA funds. But they should have the opportunity to vet for these funds because they help people in our area. Not only does GASP teach our youth, but they have a mobile crisis prevention mobile to distribute needles, and they also distribute Narcan to our schools. The other organizations that should be able to vet for these funds are, bear with me one second, Community of Hope, that's run by Annette Eldridge. The Fellowship House, that's a Department of Correction facility that works right here in Groton. Southeastern Child and Family Services helps with mental health prevention and crisis. Our Trails Corner right here is right in Groton, although it's apportioned with Stonington Institute. The other thing is that mental health mental health providers that are sole practitioners can vet for these funds. All communities and states are utilizing these funds and figuring out how to distribute them. But if we do not distribute them to the demographic to help all age groups and the whole of the demographic, we're being short-sighted. And I personally think that there was no vetting process for these funds. And I personally think that we can't do anything about the funds that were distributed for last year, and we should maybe consider the funds that were for this year, but none of us may be in these seats next year. And
I'm
think
sorry,
this
your
should
time
be,
is up. Is there anyone else? Representative Merritt.
I would just like to mention the fact that unless somebody can show me that some of these other organizations do not receive insurance funding as part of their programs, and I don't believe Mr. Dela Cruz's organization receives any insurance funding for his program, then I don't see I can't see where we can give it to programs that are receiving insurance funding also.
Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I appreciate Representative Weaver's comments, and I do remember the email she sent out in December of 2021, alerting us to the need to get the application process going. I also remember when the town council awarded the initial, I believe, $22,000 in early 2022 to Community Speaks Out, and then subsequently the other two amounts just recently. During the initial award, a number of people did speak out, and I was one of them when it came through here, asking for some sort of defined process, similar to what Representative Weaver discussed about the ARPA funds, that has a defined process that has some method of outreach to the various organizations that could qualify, a defined process of application, which could address any concerns that Representative Merritt identified, as far as like these organizations that do qualify, do they have additional funding coming from other places? Also, there should be an evaluation, similar to the ARPA awards, where the town council actually had some sort of scoring process and deliberation as they prioritized who they wanted to award money to. And then, of course, the award process. So there should be a clear and transparent and accountable process that these funds can be applied for and then awarded in a way that we can all understand. And also, I do, as much as I appreciate Community Speaks Out and what they do, it is the recovery side, and as we just heard, a lot of the detail in the language of this settlement was also to deal with prevention. And so I think we need to think critically about this, and moving forward, we should have a process that diversifies the funding so that we're supporting prevention and recovery. So I would just encourage us, again, and encourage the town staff, town manager, town council to come up with a process. And as far as that, everyone can understand, this includes outreach, application, evaluation, and award. The other concern I have is that there didn't seem to be any discussion about reporting requirements. As far as I know Community Speaks Out is a nonprofit, and there's a number of other nonprofits that could qualify for these fundings. But we didn't actually stipulate what the reporting requirements are to the municipality, as far as how do we verify? It's like the old saying, trust but verify. We need to have documentation, because the state will check on this at some point. May not be this year, may not be next year, but they will follow up at some point. And so we need to make sure that our ducks are in a row, and that where we're sending this money is being properly accounted for. So I just raise those as concerns. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote tonight, but I'm in support of the idea of awarding the funds to Community Speaks Out, but I feel the process was flawed and kind of rushed. And also it's not clearly accountable as far as exactly how we're going to justify our decisions. So I just put that out there for food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Wells. Representative Wells? He's not. We're not hearing you, I'm sorry. I'm going to move on to Representative Whitney, and then we'll come back to Representative Wells, and hopefully we can hear you then. Representative Whitney? Oh, Sean, no, we're not hearing them. Hold on, we're fixing you. Okay, Representative Wells. There we go. Now we got you.
Okay, here we go. Hello. I'm a little concerned because from what I know about treatments of substance abuse, alcohol, and so on, one size does not fit all. Programs that work for one person will not work for another person. I had an acquaintance in Texas who was arrested on drug possession and got assigned probation. The probation officer was condition of probation. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere where alcohol is served. And he said, "What? You mean I can't have my regular beer at Evo's West Side Tap Room?" And he said, "That often?" And he assigned him to AA meetings as condition of probation. And he said at every meeting they'd get up and say, "I was an alcoholic," and do the confessional. And then they said, "But I never did drugs," and they'd turn and look at him. So if he wasn't there for probation, he would have been out if he wasn't required to be there as a condition of his probation, he'd have been out the door. So if he did have a problem and needed help, he wasn't going to get it there. And my cousin, Bill Herman, my late cousin, Bill Herman, who worked tirelessly for SCAD and other groups, I visited him once. He'd been to detox twice at Norwood State Hospital. I visited him. I think he didn't actually go voluntarily. They took him wrapped up in a police car. And
Point
I
of
saw
order,
him after he,
What's
Madam
your point,
Speaker.
Representative Gardner?
We're not discussing his relatives who went through treatment at this point. We need to stick to the topic.
Representative Wells, can we get to?
Yes. Well,
Thank you.
anyway, my cousin Bill, the late cousin Bill, organized a gay AA meeting. And it's continued after his death, and it was needed because people in that community needed support, and they were getting special support. So I'm just saying is that we need to look at spreading this money around, as one size does not fit all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, Representative Whitney.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Great. So I'm going to vote no on this resolution. I understand the RTM has to vote on this one way or the other right now, but I'd like to send it back to the town council for a couple of reasons. They've been mentioned already, right? Like transparency in the process, opportunity for other organizations. At the information we have right now in front of us is less than we'd get for any social service organization coming to us through the normal budget process. So if the finance committee has more information or the town manager has more information, I'd like to hear about that. That'd be wonderful. And then the other reason is I don't understand why we're voting on multiple years at this point. I see that it's 2 settlements, but the 2024, it seems like we've 2 years one and 1 year the other. So I'd like that explained. But as long as this isn't going to time out on us, I'd like to vote. I'll vote no, and then let's get something better coming to the RTM next time. But I'd also like to know: is this going to time out on us? Do we lose these funds if we don't vote yes now? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, through you, Madam Moderator, the funds, this resolution is not under threat of the funds going away. It mentioned what was given last year one, which Community Speaks Out received, and then what the town received year two isn't here yet, but it's being earmarked to Community Speaks Out, And the additional year one money, so we're in year two with the big settlement, and this Janssen is now piggybacked onto the big settlement, but they're only in year one. So year two will be coming from Janssen also. But that year one from Janssen is $89,508.93 to go to Community Speaks Out. And they also, the council also said the third year, which hasn't, they don't know what the funds are, that would also go to Community Speaks Out. But I must tell you that in the council meeting, the mayor said this body, the 33rd council voted this way, but the 34th council may change their mind. So that's what he said. But there's no timeout on this right now. There's no, if you voted this back to the council, they can bring it back to you in 3 months. Or 2 months, however long it takes them to get it back.
Representative
Does that make
Chase.
sense? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So, first of all, if there are any strings attached to this and any reporting, the state will let the town know. And I have every confidence in Community Speaks Out and their board that they will abide by what this money is to be used for. Second of all, $112,000 is not a lot of money. And in order for Community Speaks Out to grow, they can't grow on $112,000, and I think that may be, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but that's why they said 2 years, and I think they talked about that at the council meeting, that 2 years would help them be able to plan to grow and help more people. The other businesses that they were talking about are just that, they're businesses. They get state, federal funding, and insurance money, as Representative Merritt said. And I saw firsthand how Community Speaks Out when I was in my neighborhood and someone came by and Joe Delacruz happened to be there, and without blinking an eye, because he knew this person needed help, said, "Follow me," and he took care of this person. He's on call 24/7. Are these other businesses on call 24/7? I don't know that. And this is not a budget process. This is just $112,000, which is not a lot of money. And like Betsy said, if the next council comes in and says they can't have the money next year, then so be it. But $112,000 this year will help them help more people in Groton, and I'm absolutely positive it will only be used for drug addiction and what they have to do with it to help people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Thomas.
Yeah, just to, thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to follow up real quick. Yeah, you know, let's see, Representative Whitney made a couple good points there. They're kind of eluding my mind right now, but long story short, again, it's not about who's being awarded to. It's about the process by which we got here, and I just don't think it was done correctly, and it should be reconsidered. And to that end, you know, we should be able to see whether there's a for-profit business or a non-profit business. It doesn't matter. Do they provide the services is the question, and what else do they bring to the table? So, you know, the process did not allow for a full understanding. You know, like the ARPA fund award process, you can go into the files and see all the applications, see all the organizations that did that. You can summon those up, you know, go into the town files and you find them. And you find who applied, and you can see, you know, and you can see the reasoning as to why they were accepted or rejected. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, the money should go on all these different places, but, you know, the process should be something that we all fully understand, and there should be, you know, some. Oh, right, that's what Representative Whitney said. He was saying that something, I'm going to paraphrase, but it was about, you know, a proposal, you know, understanding what are these organizations proposing to do with the money. And again, like we had formal proposals inside the ARPA application package. We have formal proposals, you know, for any other municipal funding that goes out. So, you know, again, I think, we need to consider that. And we can't just, $112,000, is significant. It is, substantial. So it could go farther, and I don't know. Again, the process. I just encourage people to think critically about that. Thank you.
Representative Whitney, you had your hand up again?
Yes, thank you. I still have my question. Do we know if any other organizations were considered? Can the town manager, for instance, speak to the process of this? It's an important question for the reasons we've been bringing up, but I must emphasize that, this is town government. We should be as transparent as possible, and also competitive, open, inclusive process almost always yields great results. And this is not casting any doubts on the mission of Community Speaks Out. It sounds like a great organization, and the people involved definitely do wonderful work for the community. But it's about the process and about realizing the opportunity, giving the opportunity to all the organizations on an even playing field. Thank you.
Thank you. And unfortunately, the town manager is not here tonight to answer your question. Representative Chase, you had your hand up again?
I did. Thank you, Madam Moderator. $8 million is a long way from $112,000. And if I sent out an RFP, which I have done in my job, for $112,000, you know how many applicants I would get? 0. It is not worth anyone's time to go through all that paperwork to apply for a grant for $112,000. And then if you divide that up among people, if you did get applicants, how much is the money going to, how much can they do with it? I mean, that's the bottom line.
Okay, thank you. Representative Weaver.
To answer that question specifically, $112,000 can be spread equally amongst many people who could vet for this money. SCAD, Safe Futures got only $10,000 of ARPA funding. They help women in domestic violence that are drug addicted. SCAD helps people with mental illness and drug addiction every day, and they only got an apportionment of the ARPA funds. And to answer your question specifically, when I reached out to Community of Hope, Fellowship House, Southeastern Child and Family, Trails Corner, and GASP, they were not vetted for these funds. When they made the decision and where Mr. De La Cruz said that there were 50 people in attendance, they were the only organization invited to the meeting. I foresee that there was no one else there. So in my opinion, this should be a normal vetting process. For instance, GASP only received $7,000 for CREC and $7,000 from DMAS for their grants for the 2 programs that they currently have. So I understand that it's only $112,000 a year, and administratively, the more people that vet for it, the more there's a process to track it. But our own town manager said that the ARPA funding right now is becoming detailed because he has to get the plan signed and the agreement signed. There should be a formal vetting process, according to our governor, by the act that he formulated, that these would be funds be utilized for what they're intended: harm reduction, infrastructure and prevention, recovery, substance use disorder, treatment, and mental health. 15% of the funds is supposed to be used for administrative tracking, and the town can use 15% to whatever they desire. But our other organizations in this that formally serve Groton should be allowed to be part of the vetting process, because it's the demographic, and just like one product doesn't serve all people, these other organizations should at least be given the opportunity. And I spoke to Fellowship House as well as Annette Eldridge from Community of Hope, and they would really love the opportunity to vet for a portion of these funds. And I would rather see 10 companies get $10,000 each to reach all age groups and all demographics in our area to better serve our community. Somebody just said about the bike route in the last town meeting that it's all about safety. Well, this is all about safety too, because these funds have the potential to save more lives in our municipality through a broader outreach of these financial resources to use towards education, prevention, harm reduction, infrastructure, and mental illness. And while I understand we didn't have a vetted process previously, we have an opportunity to have a fair and equitable distribution of these funds. And everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But the organizations that have served Groton, that are continuing to serve Groton, and those in need that need these services have to have the opportunity to be recognized and to receive additional funding as well, instead of putting it all in one pot, in my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Counselor Borderline, you want to come up here and speak?
Thank you, Councilor Bordelon. 24 Jefferson Drive.
You're speaking as an ex officio member.
Okay, perfect. I would prefer to speak under public comment, but the rules got changed, so here I am. Rather just say it once and be done. But thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm in full support of the community speak.
Hold on 1 second. GMTV is on, Sean. So we're getting feedback.
Yep.
Everybody needs to hear. Can you,
hold on.
Hold on.
It's only that microphone. It's possessed. Okay, give it a try.
Go for it.
All right, thank you. I'm in full support of supporting Community Speaks Out. I think they do an amazing job supporting our community and doing a wonderful job for access. That's definitely not my concern. As a counselor, I also do feel that I didn't have the chance to really hear from any other agencies. They were never contacted nor opened up for the opportunity to make a run for these funds. And I have heard from the community as such and did reach out to other agencies who stated that they were never brought out to do this. We just voted on the budget for the police department, and I asked about Narcan, and they said, yep, when it expires, they have to spend another couple thousand each time. And this would be a great way where if we even just had set aside $5,000 to the police department, $5,000 to our school system, just something to show that we're, helping to offset the tax base that affect us directly. Community Speaks Out, as it was stated, services 18 and older. I'm sure they wouldn't turn away a 17-year-old. They'd probably help them get services. But to me, prevention is starting in the teenage years where kids are experimenting. 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. And Fitch High School, like many high schools, has a problem vaping, and vaping of all kinds of items. This maybe would have helped, money could have been spent. I spoke to the Board of Ed about, they do have vape sensors, like smoke detectors, that you can put in the bathroom. A few $1,000s to offset those in all the high school bathrooms and middle school bathrooms would have been a form of a deterrent. So again, I think great, if we want to make a large chunk of the money go to one agency, we should have also earmark some money to go to other agencies. And my concern is that none of this money is going to 18 and under. So if nothing was to happen tonight, this would just go back to the council, and we'd have a chance to reallocate this and have agencies come before us. I just caution that we just throw all money into one area. Let's just say, I don't know, as a person who has helped people find different services in other ways, you may not feel comfortable with one agency or one daycare or it's nice to have an open platform and a variety of services for your loved ones depending on what the need is or what you're comfortable with. You can't have a one-stop shop and that's it. And so I just had hoped, my opinion was to spend this money in a way that was going to be distributed to more agencies. The other thing is, the police department wanted a new vehicle that had heaters and seats inside that they could go on the scene to different events. There may be a possibility, John said he'd look into it. I don't have a confirmation yet for sure. But maybe this is something that could go out into the community and be right in a heavy area where they need education. Maybe some of these funds could have went towards supporting that. Things like that, just kind of opening up all the doors. Again, it's nothing, my voice on this is nothing against any of the services that Joe Delacruz provides and his wife or anybody that's on that board. I think they give themselves 110% or more. I just want to see the youth and be impacted by these funds as well. Help our schools, help our police department, and help other agencies. And even if that was just 10,000 of that money, it'd be something. Also, I just don't think it's appropriate that year after year we fund the same agencies over and over. We really need to be opening up our base. One example of this is the Neighborhood Assistance Act. The same few people come before us, Sacred Heart, Fairview, wonderful agencies. But again, I had asked, can you guys open it up further? And they have. Other agencies are going to apply. we should be using these Neighborhood Assistance Act funds, just like with these opioid funds. We need to be spreading it and making sure that we're really, really helping out our entire community. So for me, I say send this back to the council, let's do this again, and let's allocate these funds in a way that's in a manner that's gonna be more equitable to 18 and under. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Merritt.
I still believe and reiterate the fact that this money is allocated and was allocated for a nonprofit organization. Other organizations may come forward, as I said, with insurance pay-ins into their funds. They might get funding from the state. This is a nonprofit organization. They're getting off the ground with what they can do and what they're doing with.
I'm sorry, 1 second. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of noise from the side. If we can just let Representative Merritt speak, thank you.
I just don't see why we're spending all this time trying to disseminate this. We were given one directive from the council.
Okay. Representative Chase, you've spoken twice already. You can speak, yep.
Can I ask Joe Delacruz to say something?
You want Joe to speak?
I'd like to hear from Councilor
Franco, go ahead.
Thank you. I won't take up much of your time, but this did come to the council, and just to let you know, it was on our agenda, and we didn't reach out to Community Speaks Out and say, hey, come to our council. I'm like, they contacted the mayor and asked, can we be invited? And the mayor had, I guess, said yes, and that's how they ended up at our council. It's public knowledge of what's on our agendas, as you all know. There is a youth group. Community Speaks Out does have a youth group, and actually they're having a meeting tonight, from what I understand. As well as, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Planning and Zoning has approved the regulations authorizing cannabis use. And in there, they will be collecting, it's cannabis use in our community would be collecting a 3% municipality sales tax. And that has to be spent in specific ways. One of the items are also mental health and addiction services. So there is more money coming on top of this money. This was voted on at the council. The council had had numerous conversations about this. If anybody wanted a different organization to be brought forward, they had every opportunity to do so and invite them as well. But it was voted on unanimously, and I will tell you, when the conversation did come up, it was a full room of citizens. The room was packed full of citizens. I will let you know that if you want to go back and review the video. And it was in full support of them getting the funds. And as I said at the council meeting, if I had to vote on these funds to go to anybody in our community or anywhere, I said I had my own personal criteria. I didn't want it to be a business. I wanted it to be a nonprofit. I wanted it to be in Groton. There are other organizations, yes, but some of them are businesses. They take insurance. They get state funding. You know, if you need more state funding, you ask the state for more funding, and their pockets are much deeper than what we have here. So that was my criteria. And Community Speaks Out has a reputation in our community that they service all types of people, from the youth to seniors to everywhere in between. And if any other organization needs money, or they need Narcan, or they need anything, they will give it to them. Somebody at the high school, a trainer, needed Narcan. They couldn't find it anywhere. Somebody reached out to Community Speaks Out. The next day, they had Narcan. So it's not like they don't help and they don't work with everybody in our community. So if I were you, if you have questions, I would suggest that you bring up Joe Delacruz to sit up at this table right here to answer all your questions. But the council voted in full favor of this with a room full of people that supported it. So I just wanted you to understand that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any further questions who has not spoken twice? Representative Obring.
Okay, my first joke is, no. I think that what we're doing is learning a lesson tonight. I fully support what Joe and his family and his group are trying to do, and I think they're doing a wonderful job. What we need to look at is the process. We can't change, or nor should we change this tonight. We should go forward with it and then talk with the council in the future in whatever manner is appropriate to do, and ask that we not get something like this again that has not been vetted properly. I feel the passion of my fellow R.T.M. member, and I respect her knowledge that she's sharing with us. And but I think at this point we should vote for this, move it, but learn from it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not spoken? Okay, then we are going to do a roll call vote.
When I call your name, you vote yes if you're in favor of the motion on the floor. If you say no or abstain.
Hold on one second. Representative Bailey, do you have a question?
No, I was going to vote.
Okay, hold on. We're not there yet.
Yep. Okay.
Representative Adams?
Yes.
Amboise?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Burrell?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
Bright?
Yes.
Casper?
Yes.
Chase?
Yes.
Kopp?
Yes.
Dean Shinbrot?
Yes.
Eben?
No.
Frickman? Oops, he's not here. Sorry. Fritchie? Yes. Gardner?
No.
Gibbs? Oops. Gustafson?
Yes.
Hainline?
Yes.
Hanscom?
Yes.
Ivy?
Yes.
Caden? Massett?
Yes.
McElroy?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Norman?
Yes.
Aubry?
Yes.
Powers K?
Yes.
Powers S?
Yes.
Cimarero?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Watson?
Yes.
Weaver?
No.
Wells?
No.
Whitney?
No.
Rusk?
Yes. So that motion passes 25 in favor, 6 opposed, and 1 abstention. Thank you. We are moving on to liaison reports. Gulf Advisory Report. Representative Casper.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Golf Advisory Board met Monday, April 3rd at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The Shenny Women's Golf Association reported increased membership after other local courses raised their rates. Golf revenues for February and March remained strong, showing continued year-to-year improvement. February revenue was $36,000 compared to last year's $24,000, an increase of over $12,000. March revenue was $122,500 compared to previous year's $113,200, or almost $10,000 higher. Fiscal year-to-date revenue of $893,000 is almost $53,000 ahead of last year, which was the best year ever. The golf course reported work on bunkers on holes 3, 4, and 6, and the 7th hole tee should begin starting this week, weather permitting. On fulfilling course goals and objectives, Director Berry reported the course continues as an Audubon certified sanctuary. June being Women's Golf Month, Todd Goodhue, the head pro, announced that last year's promotion will be matched, setting the 18-hole rate with cart for women at $30. Monday through Thursday, all day, and after 12 noon, Friday through Sunday. It was unanimously approved by the advisory board. The next meeting of the Golf Advisory Board will be June 5th. Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Seeing none, thank you. I'm sorry, Representative Whitney.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Could you repeat the part about the Audubon Sanctuary?
The course is certified as an Audubon sanctuary, or as an Audubon certified sanctuary, obviously for birds or wildlife.
Interesting, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Bright.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Citizen Police Committee meeting was held on 13 March 2023 at the Groton Town Police Department and was called to order at 5:06 p.m. The committee members present were Chair Dela Cruz, Mr. Ortega, Ms. Perfett, Velez, and Groton Town Police Chief Fisaro. Others present were Councilors Casiri and Franco, Groton Town Manager Burt, Groton Town Deputy Police Chief Gately, Captains B and McCarthy, Mr. Greeley, Officer McClellan, and Officer McClellan's dog Chase. The 30 January 2023 meeting minutes were approved with changes. No communications were received by the committee. There was no old business. Under new business, under community policing and officer wellness, a PowerPoint presentation was made by Officer McClellan on the following programs, which were a lot. Pups Behind Bars, service dog training, police service dogs, connecting the town departments to GTPD, DARE, school visits, after-school program, camps, dinners, DOGA, which is a dog yoga, library and community center office hours, the Youth Advisory Board, school resource officers, officer wellness, and EAP. Community events discussed were National Night Out, Coffee with a Cop, Cops and Comfort Dogs, backpacks and haircuts, toy drives, flag raising events, Special Olympics, cognitive safety and awareness, the Yellow Dot program, Triad, mock traffic stops, the Blue Envelope program, and GASP. So there was really a lot that was covered, and it's amazing how many programs that she's actually involved in. I asked her if she had any time to sleep. So. The next topic was 2022 complaints and praise. For 2022, there were 6 complaints and 21 praise letters, which I think is a pretty good ratio. The process of handling complaints was covered in detail, from the form that is online to how each complaint is processed, from Deputy Chief Gately to the final outcome. So it starts with Deputy Chief Gately, runs through until the final outcome. Each of the 2022 complaints was covered in detail from the start to the final outcome. There was a discussion on roadway cameras. Now, these cameras are used primarily for monitoring the evacuation routes that would be used in an emergency to control the flow of traffic. There were additional discussions on flock cameras and license plate readers, which are used to identify stolen cars, and there were actually 9 identified with these cameras, and help with silver and amber alerts. There are presently 11 cameras installed. One is actually near Johnson's Hardware. And the project is ongoing, and grants are being looked at for purchase of more cameras. Under other business and open forum, The Ring network was discussed along with the electronic speed limit signs. The meeting was adjourned at 6:36 p.m. and the next meeting is scheduled for the 8th of May, 2023. So any
Thank you.
questions?
I would just like to book DAGA for this body when we are done with the budget process. I want it full of puppies. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we are going to move on to budget discussions. So as you all know, the budget is in full swing right now with the town council. I hope you've all been able to watch the town council and keep track of what they how they've been voting. If you have missed anything, you will get a list from the town clerk of what all the numbers are that get passed by the town council. Just a reminder, because I know our tax base is kind of confusing. Everyone in Groton, from the Thames River to the Mystic River and all the way up, pays the same mill rate. Everybody. In addition to that, so that's your town tax. Everybody pays that. In addition to that, everyone pays a fire district tax. There's been some confusion about what the city pays. So as the District 3 rep, I'm just going to let you know, District 3 and District 2 are just a fire district. Think of it that way. So they pay their fire district tax. District 1 pays their fire district tax. 2, or 4, 5, 6, 7. So everybody has a different fire district tax. That we don't discuss here. That is not something that's part of our budget process. Everybody's different fire districts gives their own services. So that is different for every district. But everybody pays the same main rate. As an RTM, we are going to get the town manager's number, the town council's number. If those are different, we may vote for the town council one. If the town manager's number is higher and they've reduced it, we can return it back up to that number. We need a 2/3 vote to do that. We may not vote to move the budget above the town manager's number. Or the council's number, whichever one's higher, yes. Please reread your rules. Everyone will be able to speak twice during each item. Go to your committee meetings, have lots of discussions in committee meetings. If you have questions and that is not your committee, please forward those questions that you have to the committee chair, to the town clerk, not the city clerk as I wrote, sorry, to the town clerk and to myself, so that those questions can be addressed during a committee meeting. That way, hopefully all of your questions can be answered before they have to reach this form, or before they reach the full RTM. That does not mean that you cannot ask questions during the full RTM, okay? But we'd like to get as many questions answered ahead of time so that we're able to get a full discussion on that. Does anybody have any questions about the process? Representative Eben, you have a question about the process?
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Madam Moderator. I'm curious if the schedule of those committee meetings has been set yet.
They have. You should have gotten it in an email already. Oh, no, I already got an email. Sorry. Did it go out yet? Sorry. It will be sent out tomorrow?
Well, I'll just tell you, the committee chairs have set their dates. I just have one location for one committee that I haven't found yet, but because believe it or not, most of them on the same day. So it'll be interesting.
So Community Development and Services is April 20th at 6 p.m. It's also, it does not say on my, April 27th, it's also on April 27th at 6 p.m., but you will get this in written form. Education Committee is April 26th at 7 p.m. Public Safety is April 27th at 7 p.m. Finance Committee is April 27th at 7 p.m., so this will be interesting. Public Works is April 18th, which is next week, Tuesday at 6 p.m. And Recreation Committee is April 20th at 7 p.m.
What is the process if we can't have that? I spoke with the chair of Public Works, but, and I told him I wasn't available on the 18th, which you just said. I'm one of the organizers of the Coastal Perspective Lecture at Avery Point. So what's the process at that point?
Let's talk about it offline, and we will see what we can do to make accommodations, see if there's anything we can do. Okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Representative Whitney.
Thank you. I've got April 25th, Tuesday, April 25th at 7 for the Education Committee. So let's just make sure we get that straight one way or the other. And then the other part is I'd just like to say it's nice to have an electronic searchable PDF for the budget. That's wonderful this year. And then my question about the process is actually first I'd like to say we do hit on the fire districts because of the payment in lieu of taxes, the pilot program and how that's distributed. So there is some budget implications for the fire districts there. But then my big question is, how are we handling the city of Groton this year? Are we, as in year past, voting one number, or are we voting for, say, highways separately from police department?
So the City of Groton highway budget per the state charter only gets voted on by the town council. So we have to approve it, but whether we approve it or not is irrelevant, which I don't like doing. Like I feel like there's no reason to do that, but that is how the state charter is. So we will only be voting on the City of Groton police budget. And their lights, I'm sorry, yes, and lights. Any other questions? Okay, Representative Caden, I do not have a committee for you yet, but we will talk after this meeting if you have a moment. Okay, any other questions? Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Are we in other business now?
No, we're still under budget.
Okay, I'll wait for other business.
Okay. Any more budget questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to other business. Oh, I'm so sorry. One more thing. The annual meeting is set for Monday, May, we're moving on to the next month. Monday, May 1st at 7 p.m. at the Groton Senior Center, so here at Thrive 55. So Monday, May 1st, 7 p.m. That is our annual meeting date.
The whole thing's called annual meeting, and you could do all your business in one day, or you could take 5 days. It's one continuous meeting.
But one continuous meeting, we don't adjourn, we just.
Right.
We recess.
Right, but remember, you could just have one meeting, like we did that one year, on a Saturday.
We did it on a Saturday during COVID. Okay, no other questions on the budget process. Then we are moving on to other business. Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to follow up on your comment earlier in the meeting about the town council and decorum. According to the town council rules, there is an option for yielding the floor, meaning councilors may yield the floor to citizens or other non-councilors wishing to speak, subject to a time limit of 5 minutes per such speaker. The provisions of Rule 8D shall extend to such non-councilor speakers, and a councilor shall not recognize more than one non-councilor until all councilors have had the opportunity to speak. So there is an option for councilors to recognize someone from the gallery, but they have to give up their time and their turn of speaking to do so.
Correct.
So it is allowable. It just needs a counselor to say, you know, may I be recognized, and I yield my time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Amboise.
Moderator, thank you. I just want to, are you going to hear me? Yep. Again, thank you again for the opportunity to represent District 2 here. Just to clarify, I was the individual that filed that citizen's complaint. I did watch the meeting. It was quite disturbing to see someone interrupt the meeting on numerous occasions. I'm going to start a fresh start here and hope that it was just a lapse in judgment. However, there's been several incidents that's been occurred at those town council meetings, and it doesn't represent us as a body or the representatives of District 7 well. So The process that was just described was not accurate. There was an outburst from the crowd that said, I want my time yielded from some council member. No council member did it, or the council members that were speaking expired their time. So I just hope that if we're going to council meetings, we should represent professionally and adequately and not be disrespectful for the process that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor.
Thank you. Yes, so I was at the meeting as well, and a representative did raise their hand, asked to be recognized. I leaned over to the mayor, did not have the rules in front of me, which were just stated, which are in the council rules, and I was told that the person could not be yielded the time. That's what was stated. And then the person did state those were wrong, and I did ask if we could break to read the rules, and that did not happen. So, so my understanding is, and the representation of what happened is the person was acting in good faith, asking to be recognized, and was told that that was not in the rules, and in fact it was. So a person on the council did ask if that was in true factual, and was told not, that it was not. So, but it is in the rules, and I will also then forward it on as well to the mayor and everyone else. But I do think that we do have to honor what is written there, and recognize folks if they ask to be recognized. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to say, and that is a town council rule. They are welcome to recognize or not recognize. What I'm asking is that town council, or that RTM members please not shout out during a meeting, that they follow decorum rules, that town council rules, that they be respectful, and that this not happen again. So that is the end of that. Anybody else have any other issues? Okay, seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Who did it?
Watson and Cup. Oh, I'm going to ask this question kind of off the record.